Hi there, Mom from Mom Cooks and Gardens. This morning I thought I would make a fun little dessert. I found the recipe on Facebook under the heading Delicious Recipes, and it looked so good. It was a chia pudding pie, no bake, vegetarian. That recipe said it was vegan, but I'm going to be making some substitutions that just make it sort of vegetarian. So I thought we would use some of our ingredients from the garden last year. I've got some huckleberries. We've got about 1.5 cups of those. 1/4 cup of chia seeds. We're going to sweeten it with 1/4 cup of agave syrup and a dash of lemon juice, vanilla, and a pinch of salt. Now for the crust, we're going to use nuts. So I picked a selection of pecan and macadamia, mainly because that's some of what I had, and the macadamias have been kind of like lying around waiting to be used. So I'm going to blend them up with some dates to make a nut crust. And instead of making a pie, I'm going to put it in ramekins, and then we'll put them in the refrigerator to set. So let's get started. I'll show you how I make the crust. All right, so don't forget to open up your dates and remove their pits. And what I'm gonna do is just use my pestle to crush the nuts. If you don't have a pestle, you can always put them in a Ziploc bag and just kind of smack them lightly with a hammer, or even use a canned good and just roll the heavy can and tamp them in the Ziploc bag, because I have been known to do that so I don't have to clean up. And these are kind of coarse, but I think they're gonna crush down with the dates. I don't know how this is gonna turn out because I've never mashed dates before. They're kind of sticking to my pestle, but that's all right. I assume we want to make like a paste. Let's get that date out of the way. Now I need enough nuts to do 4 ramekins. So here I've crushed ahead of time some more, so I'm just going to add that until I think it's going to be the consistency that we want. So it's almost making like a flour. I may only need 1 date. It really didn't specify in the recipe how many dates to use, so I just pulled out 2. So that, yeah, that's making a nice crumbly mixture. And I do think we're going to have to like knead it a little, because I want it dry, I want it to pack. But I do think we're going to need more dates, so I'm going to add 1 more, or at least half of 1, and go from there. So I'm going to do the same thing, just add more flour. Now I'm going to use my fingers to break it up. These are so good. They're sticky and they're sweet. They have so many uses. We like to eat them just straight, but this is looking really good. Adding in some more of my crushed nuts. So if I take a little pinch of this and I kind of squeeze it, it holds together in like a little ball. And I think that's what they're going for. So I think that just might be it. So I'm going to use a spoon, remove it over here, and we'll try putting a few tablespoons in. I don't know if you can see that. I don't want the layer too thick because I'd rather have more chia pudding than nuts. I think I want it more sticky than that. I think I will use the whole date. I guess I'll use about 2 spoonfuls. So you can see that. So I'm just kind of going around with the spoon and pressing it into place. It's about, I would say, 1/4 of an inch thick. Looks really good. There you go. It looks like that is the magic amount. 1, 2, 3. All right, so there's our ramekins filled with our date nut crust. And next we're gonna work on creating the filling. So as I said, we're gonna use 1.5 cups of our huckleberries. So I'll go ahead and pour them in. Look at that beautiful purple juice. That's gonna make our pie really pretty. I'm gonna add a 1/4 cup of agave syrup. Now you could use honey, brown rice syrup, maple syrup, anything you got on hand. I just have a lot of this agave syrup and I don't really use it for a lot, so I thought this would be a great opportunity to use it. Now I'm going to add our vanilla. Now the recipe calls for a teaspoon of vanilla powder. I don't have vanilla powder, but what I do have is our homemade vanilla extract. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that into a measuring cup. That way I can I won't end up with too much liquid since I'm using an extract. Next is going to come a tablespoon of our lemon juice. And if you have, oh, let me get that open. And if you have fresh lemons, of course use them, but we do not. So there we go, tablespoon. And then we're going to measure out a cup of milk. I'm using goat milk because it's my favorite, especially when I make chia pudding. And this is what this recipe is really based off of, is chia pudding. So now we have a cup of liquids. So hopefully, substituting vanilla extract and the lemon juice, it won't, overpower the recipe. And I'm going to pour that into our blender. Right there. And it calls for a pinch of salt. So, I figure that looks like a pinch. That'll help balance the sweetness of the filling. They use coconut milk, I used goat milk. Oh, and then I guess we're ready to blend. So I'm just gonna pulse. Now I really blended that because I don't want any skins in my pudding to detract. But I suppose you could simmer the berries to release their juices and just use the juice. But I like the antioxidants and things that are found in the skins, so I'm just opting to leave them in. Hey Willow. She's come to help. Yes. Not for you though. Now, look at this gorgeous color. I don't know if you can see it really well, but look at that. So purple. It looks so good. And I think what I'm going to do is, this looks to be about 24 ounces. So now that we have blended our mixture, I'm curious as to what it's going to taste like. Oh, it's really pleasant. Not too sweet, but I do feel like it could use a pop of sweetness. I think I might add just a little bit more of the agave. So I think perhaps another 1/8 of a cup of the agave may do better justice to this pie. And we're gonna hit that blender to distribute the agave syrup. So beautiful. Push out a little bit. Oh, I think that's much more to my liking. So do test yours, and if you feel necessary, add. And I'm going to put that into a 4-cup dish. Again, just look at that color. So beautiful. So I think it's important to transfer the mixture into either a large bowl or a larger cup, because when we add the chia seeds, they're really gonna swell up, and it's gonna be hard to get them out of like that narrow blender, especially amongst the blade, when they start to take on a gel-like consistency. So I'm gonna mix these guys in. These are just whole chia seeds. They take on water, they swell up like 3 times their size. They actually get like this little jelly-like coating on the outside of them. So it's important that when you add your chia to your liquid, I used to put it in a ball jar with a tight-fitting lid, and for the first like 20 minutes, every 2 minutes I would shake it. Otherwise the chia can clump together, and inside the center of that clump, the chia seeds don't get any moisture, and you end up with like crunchy bits and lumps, and I hate lumps in my chia pudding. So we're going to stir this for several minutes. That way, as their sticky coating develops, they won't stick together, we won't have any lumps, and we won't have any dry spots. This is such a fun way to eat chia pudding, especially purple. I can't wait. I love purple. It's a great way for us to use up some of those huckleberries from last season. I don't think I'm going to grow them this season. I don't really have space, and I have like 4-gallon bags of huckleberries because I grew so many last year. And I probably will defrost them and make some jam. I probably will make some turnovers or pies. I wanted to do like a crumb cake with huckleberries, but I think I might use jam for that. Some of last year's jam, just to use it up. Okay, so we're gonna let that go, and then I'll be back after it thickens. So we're at the 10-minute mark, and the chia is thickening, but it's not quite as thick as I am used to seeing a pudding. It will develop and set in the refrigerator, but I think I'm gonna add another 1/4 cup of chia seeds for a total of a 1/2 cup. I'd rather it to be on the firm side than to be runny. All right, so it's been another 10 minutes, so 20 minutes total. We doubled the chia, and I'm much happier with the look of this. So while the lesser quantity of chia may have made an okay pudding. You can always thin out chia pudding with more liquids, more milk, but you can't thicken it without adding more chia. So I'd rather err on the side of caution because I want this pie filling to be thicker consistency than pudding would be. So I feel like it was a good call. So I'll give it a good stir to make sure that we got good disbursement. I'll start with the further one. I'm going to fill it about up to there. The chia is going to continue to expand, so I don't want to fill it to the top. And with the remainder, I'm just going to add that to a cup. Now, I do feel like this one might be a little overfull, so I'm going to take a spoonful out. Just add that. I think that's more appropriate. The fruitiness of chia, when you open the package, it smells fruity. And it's really like complementary to the fruit in the chia mix. So I think it's going to develop some really great flavors, and I'm going to clean up the rims. Now, if this were in season, I probably would, add some pretty fruit or garnishes, other berries. But since we're not in season and I don't have any of that, we're going to just have to suffice with plain. Ooh, before I put them in, let's cover the top with some saran wrap. That should be enough. This will just keep it from developing a skin. I'm just going to kind of tuck it around the ramekins so it's not touching the surface. There you go. It should probably take several hours, if not to the next day. Because this is going to be a thicker filling as opposed to a looser pudding. So I won't be surprised if it's not set up. It's about 4 o'clock now. So, by dinner time, maybe around 7:30, chances are it still won't be ready. We can always use our little leftover batch in that Tupperware container to judge the consistency, but those seeds are going to continue to swell and hopefully they turn out like the picture. But I'll let you know, and we'll break them out, we'll taste them and give you our opinions. So as always, we're going to include a link to the recipe, and stay tuned. All right, so we're back with our chia dessert, our chia pie that we turned into ramekins. So two things. I think the chia is not dense enough to set up like it did in the photograph. I think it has more of a pudding consistency. And I was disappointed that it turned brown.
Delicious.
Yeah, the antioxidants. I've had that happen with blueberry smoothies and stuff. I don't know. What do you think? Scott's never had chia pudding. You can see here what I mean by, now underneath it's still bright purple, but that outer layer oxidizes. See the purple?
Mm-hmm.
There.
Yeah. No, I see.
But what do you think about the nut crust, the date nut crust? I thought was, it's not bad.
It's not bad at all.
Would you eat it again?
We made it.
Mm-hmm.
Would I buy it? No. But I'm kind of a basic guy when it comes, unless it's like.
Yeah.
I love Middle Eastern desserts, but other than that, you know, I'll take chocolate cake.
See, I'm gonna stir it up just to bring out some of the purple. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. It took so long to set up.
Well, Chia, it's not that it sets up. Chia swells and creates a pudding consistency.
You know when we used to watch all those Chopped episodes, they would use that like fast chiller. What was it called? It was like a freezer, but it had more horsepower to it, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
I think this would benefit from that, because then you wouldn't have to worry about that oxidation, perhaps. I don't know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Maybe our freezer's wimpy. I don't know.
Well, it wasn't in the freezer. It's meant to be cold.
Oh.
So, like, with yogurt pies and stuff, you'll mix, like, Cool Whip and yogurt together.
Mm-hmm.
And you add a package of Jell-O, and it makes it firm, like a cream pie.
Mm-hmm.
But, the Chia, I just figured they had a denser ratio, which I doubled the chia seeds.
Yeah.
And it still didn't come out like the picture.
I went from fish and chips today to fajitas with guac to this.
Yeah.
Putting my taste buds on an emotional roller coaster.
So I think if I were to make this again and drop my expectation that it's going to be sliceable and stand up like the picture, which is probably AI, I think what I would do is I would make the chia pudding with that double ratio, using milk and chia seed with the vanilla. I think I would let it bloom overnight, and then the next day I would add the fresh blended huckleberries to the mix. It would be vibrantly purple, and it would be more like a breakfast bowl, and I'd put pretty fruit on top.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I would leave adding the berries to the very last step. And I think it would be absolutely delicious. It's just the time the chia needs to bloom.
What do you mean by bloom again?
So chia seeds are very tiny, and when they get moisture, they swell up,
Yeah, now I
and
understand.
they're like gelatinous almost.
Okay.
Kind of like a tapioca.
Oh, I thought you meant like
Right.
quinoa or something.
No. They bloom. They swell up and kind of do their thing. But I was very pleased by the crust. I like the nut crust. I thought that was really good. But I also feel like the nut crust would be awesome just rolled into balls and eaten like a treat too.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It was interesting.
Absolutely.
Definitely fun to try.
What should you do, people? Like and subscribe for more. Thank you for watching.